You might notice something a little different. There's been a name change. Formerly known as Limitless Momentum with Ariana Stone is now Dead Set on Progress. Still me, same shit, just a new name. To kick off season 2, I'm joined by Marvin McCouri. Marvin and I have a conversation mostly about music as connection, but not just to sound, but to ourselves and to each other. We also talk about failing forward, using journaling as a tool for self-awareness, and how unexpected projects can challenge what growth and healing really look like. This is a conversation about curiosity, creativity, and allowing yourself to evolve. Thank you for showing up, and enjoy this episode with Marvin McCouri. We are here with the Dead Set on Progress podcast with me, Ariana Stone, and my lovely guest that I have today, Marvin McCouri. Marvin, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you. Just my little quick intro of Marvin is that, so Chicago-based, you would say curator, commentator, and then creator of the Dual Input.
Yes.
So what is the Dual Input?
So Dual Input is the interview series that I have started on YouTube, socials, and it is my way of trying to bridge music and having a conversation about music with just connecting with people, connecting with humans, because the way I see it, consuming music, the way that I like to consume music, also like everyone else, is typically, in your headphones, at home, maybe sometimes it's over the speakers, but maybe most times it's just with yourself. And I think the way that I had this like kind of light bulb was when I watched Oppenheimer with my brother, because watching a movie is also sometimes in the same environment of listening to music. If it's a good story and you're in it, you're usually not talking, you're like engaging with the movie. And when me and my brother saw Oppenheimer, we watched it in IMAX and then we went to a bar and we just like talked about it. And it was really cool to get his perspectives, connect on that, and then just like have an excuse to like hang out with my brother, after the movie. So I wanted to emulate that with music because, I have so many thoughts about music. I'm sure a lot of people do. And it doesn't even matter like what those thoughts are, just connecting, in a humanistic way of let's sit down and have a conversation and talk about, it doesn't even have to be like the theories of, this, just really like even your day, like maybe you ran errands and you were like playing a song that you're obsessed with, like while you're at like Aldi or something. And I just feel like there's always music soundtracking our lives in some way. And I want to bridge that gap between we love music or it's always around us and we're just people that want to connect and like have conversations about our human experience.
Yeah. And I think too, even like you just said, like it's almost like the soundtrack to your life and like how there's different stages. Mm-hmm. So like my early 20s, big Weekend fan, still a big Weekend fan, but like now it's transitioned into, more of like my pop punk self, like my little emo kid is like a 12-year-old, more MGK or like Blink-182 having their albums come back, new album come back. Mm-hmm. I think that there's different things in different stages, like you said, different stages of our life. It's going to be different things or different soundtracks. Or like you said too, remember when they would actually sell like the soundtrack CD or like the vinyl for like different movies?
Oh,
I mean, they still kind of do. I'm like, now it can just be on streaming. Mm-hmm. But even then, like taking Oppenheimer and then if you listen to just the music, it's like, would you feel the same if it was even removed? I want to say removed from the movie, but would I have a different perspective?
Yeah, or like how would I experience this score just, I guess, listening to it in my living room versus like immediately after this like bomb goes off in the movie, just like I think that experience matters too, because I've also had albums that I've really loved and have really stuck with me that on the first listen, and this kind of happens a lot. Let's say like I just left work and I'm really tired and my brain just like really can't consume anything else, but I really want to listen to this album and I'm tired and I'm just like, maybe internally I'm just frustrated or something and I'm like, okay, I'm turning this off. Like this is not for me. And this has actually happened with a record recently. And then like on Saturday mornings when I love to play music and like clean and really be intentionally present and listening, I play the same album and I'm like, I am so glad I came back to this because it like actually does resonate with me and I'm in a better, headspace. And I want to talk to someone about it. Like I want to connect what I'm feeling dabbling in like all of these things, you know.
Do you find that it's like based on, like you said, you're like, oh, I have cleaning. Like, is there a certain genre, a certain artist? Like, you're like, all right, my Saturday mornings for cleaning. Like, typically it's going to be this.
Yeah, I think my DNA draws me to a specific genre because of what I grew up listening to. I think I can say that like a lot of like the Black experience is growing up in a household that has parents that are playing some sort of music, but that's probably like most people's experience, you know, playing music in some regard, in a like traditional way, whether it's, you know, I also went to church. So like we would always play, it wouldn't always be Christian music, but we'd always play music on our way to church. We'd always play music on Saturday mornings, like cleaning. And so I generally want to, like, my brain feels at home when I'm playing like African high life, when I'm playing like 60s, 70s soul music, some jazz, because those are all things that my mom and dad loved playing at that time. But now that I'm like trying to listen to everything, I will honestly just play an album that maybe recently came out and like looks interesting. Or I will play like an album or an artist that I have not listened to before, but, you know, maybe really big. Like right now I'm listening to all of the records from the Police because I'm just like, okay, the Police, I know they're cool. Like Sting is cool, but like, let me find out why. Last year I listened to all of U2's discography because, you know, like my only experience with U2 is when we like got, when Apple Music was a new thing. Yeah. And
then there's just like, here's your album. And you're like, thank you.
And you're like, I don't want this. You know, like, why is this on my phone?
Yeah.
And everyone loves U2, so I was like, okay, I want to find out why everyone loves U2 and what my experience is with it. So right now I'm just kind of playing whatever, but sometimes I will still gravitate to, you know what, like I want to just wash dishes and like feel good. I'm going to play like, you know, whatever like really speaks to me this time.
Or like you even said, like that feels almost like home, or like what you said, like what you grew up listening to, which was going to be my question. I was like, what did you mostly listen to growing up, or like what did your parents play?
They played a lot of African high life. Some African high life has a lot of like gospel aspects to it. So they will be like Christian religious music. There's one album in particular that I'm thinking of that I just can't remember the artist ever, but it's like this blue cover, and I'll probably like figure out the name later. But I listened to a lot of that. I listened to, like I said, a lot of soul music. So we would listen to Stevie Wonder. I'm probably the artist that we played the most was probably George Benson.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had this like strange connection in college where I was like going through a ton of artists and trying to like, I think in college is when I really started to discover like, oh, I love discovering music and going through that. And I listened to Breezin' by George Benson, and it was like, have you seen That's So Raven?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, when she like has like those visions and she's kind of just like, I don't know, spacing out and just kind of, that was me in the moment, just like, whoa, I just got brought back to being 9 years old. Like this song was played in my house all the time, and I texted my dad and he's like, yep, and these songs. And he sent me like the rest of what he would play. So it was a lot of those artists. Yeah.
It's wild. I'll do that to my mom too. And I'm like, do you remember this album? Or do you remember this? It was she told me she had to get a new cassette of Hootie and the Blowfish's Cracked View Mirror. I'm sorry, Cracked Rear Mirror.
That's the record?
Cracked Rear View. Yeah.
Yeah.
It came out in like, I think it was like 94 or 95. She was like, you were 2. And she was like, you would just belt it. She's like, so you had like Time and like all that, like those songs on there. And she was like, you just belt it out. She's like, you wore out the cassette. You know, so that's one that always makes me like think of home. But she listened to Whitney, Mariah, you know, but then like you have like the Eagles, like you said, like Cheap Trick. It was just everything that was popular then, like you said, like Janet Jackson, Michael.
She a Prince
like
fan?
Anybody. She was a Prince fan. Like Prince wasn't like played a lot in the house, but she also had like, it was like the surround system that had the 6 CD changer.
Okay, so they had like a whole setup.
Oh yeah, no, I wonder if she still has it, but like had like the thick like double albums, so like had all the CDs in there. But yeah, it's crazy even just having those songs like take you back to a place where you're like, I had a good childhood, you know, or just like you said, Saturday mornings, like if we were doing chores, because that was what we did. We had to get all of our chores done first. before we could go do all the fun shit that we wanted to do.
Exact same here.
So, like, I hated dusting, and I still hate dusting to this day. But that would be the thing, and music would be on, and it's crazy how it can transport you back into that spot.
Yeah. Do you feel connected to those artists when you play them? And, you know, do you still get transported back, or do you feel like you gravitate towards like what you listen to now?
I feel like both, because like if I listen to Hootie, I instantly think of my mom, or I think of like the house that we lived in when I was younger, like before we moved. Or even like, because if I had to pick one genre, I guess my main genre would be like pop punk. So like Blink-182. That's the other thing too. Green Day's like Brain Stew or like Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. Yeah. Like that Nimrod album and Insomniac, like those albums introduced me into kind of that grungy pop punk, which is what I really got into in middle school and like still what I listen to today. And it's kind of still making more of a comeback, I would say. But, yeah, I don't know. But I also listen to a lot of different stuff. Yeah. It's like, I like R&B. My dad listened to jazz. He was more of a hip hop guy, but he listened to jazz, and my dad wasn't around a lot, but I think it's interesting, like as I've gotten older, like jazz is what I'll, like if I need to work on something for the brand, or if I do actually need to like try to chill out, like I'll put jazz on, and I'm like, I couldn't tell you any of the artists, I couldn't tell you any of the names of the songs, but just the calming effect, at least for me, that it has. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. And, you know, when I was in middle school, maybe early high school, I went through all of the same phases. I like went through a big pop punk era and Eminem era, and also like a huge Odd Future Wolfgang era. Okay. Yeah. So I like loved Odd Future, and I had this major dissonance because they were talking about some of the craziest stuff, but I was like a church kid, and I was just like, I should not be listening to Tyler Creator talk about this stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think kind of exploring into that after growing up with like soul influences really kind of opened me up to listening to, I don't know, like whatever I was interested in instead of staying in one lane, because I was listening to a ton. I had this like MP3 player that wasn't an iPod. It was like,
was it the Zune?
Maybe I didn't think it was a Zune. I think it was like if Temu was around then, like you could buy it off Temu. Yeah. Like I asked my mom for an iPod, and she was like, "Here you go." And
this plays like, music. Here you go.
And I think like it didn't hold a lot of songs, but like most of the memory on that MP3 player I can remember wasn't music. It was, I downloaded like 3 music videos, and one of them was there's like a black and white Fall Out Boy music video, and I can't think of it. It's not Dance Dance, but I think that
now I'm trying to think of it.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It's not Grand Theft Auto.
I think it was on the record that where they have like an album cover of a room, and there's a pony in the room with wings.
There's a pony in the room,
and it's got that. It's like
it's blue.
And it's super
Infinity on High.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, it's just got one of those like music videos on it. So I went through like a humongous Fall Out Boy, you know, era. And also I've always had this like pride factor of, if I like this song or this artist, like then they're up here. But if they're from Chicago, then they're like way up here. So the fact that Fall Out Boy is from Chicago, I was like, this is crazy. What? For sure. So they just like really stuck with me. So I had like that era. And then when I got into college, I went through like a big indie rock era. Like I discovered the Strokes for the first time, which is kind of crazy. But like I was listening to them. I was listening to a ton of like John Mayer, like Jack Johnson. These aren't indie rock artists, but like I was listening. So yeah, it just kind of like opened up to so many things. Yeah.
But I think is so cool, because I think, like you said, like we can have, or even like the soundtrack to your life, right? Like you're kind of in one genre in this portion, and then it kind of moves on. Or maybe that one, like pop punk, will always stay with me to an extent. Yeah. But like maybe one was a little more hip hop heavy, or more was one folky or whatever. But I think that having, I don't know, like it's almost like being open minded to music, because for me, I'm like, if it sounds good, like I don't really care about genre. Like if it sounds good and I can vibe to it, I like it. Right.
Then it's going to make its way. And I think, you know, being that this is like a mental health platform, I honestly hadn't ever thought about it this way until right now, like our conversation. But I really do feel like the music that I was into in the times that I was into them were like almost protecting me in the areas that I went through, or like the areas that I had, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when I was in middle school and I was just like mad about everything, I was listening to, like I said, Eminem, Odd Future, you know, A Day to Remember, stuff like that. Maybe early Skrillex. I don't remember if he was around or not, but it was just like my way of expressing myself. You know what I mean? Because I like tried not to act out and stuff, but it was my, like, I would hear those things and I would just, I don't know, I would just feel like better because I was almost getting my emotions out, like listening to these things on full volume or singing with them, versus like college. I just really like was trying to lock in all the time and focus. And I took college very seriously because, you know, I was just like, there was just so much pressure to perform well as a student.
Yeah.
So I was listening to like really easy stuff sometimes, like, you know, some Early Strokes, John Mayer. I just really think that what I needed in my life, without even kind of thinking about it, like those songs, those albums were like, in a way, helping me be the best version of myself so I could show up for others, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
Or even just like what you're going through in that time period. Like you said, like college was different than like our teenage angsty period.
Yeah.
Like I can remember listening to Simple Plan and it's like God Must Hate Me is the song. And I'm like, you know, and I'm like, but it's just so like juvenile. Like I still love that album, but like still juvenile, and I'm like, yeah, 12-year-old me is like, no one gets me, but this song gets me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, I can relate to this at this time, or like this is what, you know, if there's like a darker period too, you're like, okay, like something that's a little more melancholy. Like I think, at least for me, like I will listen to, like if I'm sad, I'll listen to something sad, and people are like, well, why don't you listen to something that's like more upbeat or happy? And I'm like, because I think that's what I can relate with at that time. I'm like, not that, you know, me listening to something sad is going to make me worse. I'm like, it hasn't done that yet.
Yeah.
You know, but it might be different for somebody else. But for me, it's like, that's the connection that I can feel at that time.
Yeah.
And whereas like, I don't feel like listening to Happy by Pharrell, because that's not how I feel.
That's a great point.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's just me personally, but I can also understand too, someone being like, hey, well, if you listen to something that's more upbeat or happier or more positive, like, you know, it might bring you out of that. I'm like, it's also fair, but for me, I'll just I'll have my mood. I'll listen to whatever I need to get through it, and then we move on. Yeah,
no, honestly, that reminds me like of when I was going through breakups, and I would like it was whatever song just so happened to be on the, like, that was playing at the time that I was feeling that way. But when I would go through a breakup, because most of the breakups I went through, I was getting dumped, I would play the same song. Like, I would just wear it down, because I was just like, I just need to feel this thing, and I need to, like, I don't even know what I was going through, but I just needed that song to like serve its purpose, and I just wanted to listen to that same thing until I got over it, you know? And it's like you said, it was just like what I was connecting with the most, you know, like at that time. So it's just funny how, like, in the best possible way, how music is, again, like soundtracking our lives for like these sad moments, these happy moments. And yeah, no, it's almost like a movie. You know?
Is. It really is. Did you ever watch Friends? Were you a Friends person?
The show? Yeah.
It just made me think when you were talking about breakup, where it's like that meme with Chandler and he's like hugging the vinyl and like everyone will put whatever vinyl's in there, and he's, that's what it made. That's what it made me think of. Whatever album or song, you know, it was just, let me just hug this.
Yeah.
And it'll make all the pain go away.
It's crazy too. Like, I think about, you know, let's say that same moment, that same us, like, as we were going through whatever ups and downs in our lives, if we, you know, if this were the 80s, 90s, when there wasn't streaming, then we would just be playing whatever we had. You know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't have this abundance to be like, I am feeling this way, or like, here's this algorithm playlist that tells me like these are like mood boosting songs, you know, and like you're playing that. Like, you would be curating your own sound to say like, nope, this is my collection of like sad music, or this is how I feel with this, versus like this huge abundance that we have now.
For sure. I know we're spoiled now.
We are.
We're absolutely spoiled, because like you said, Spotify will put any playlist together for me that I want, or be like, here's a new artist, which I do like. So like, I started listening to MGK maybe in like 2020. It was like around like his diss track, or like his battle with Eminem. Okay. When Rap Devil came out. But then listening to MGK, there was this guy named Mod Sun, and then turns out like they're super close, like best friends. But I was like, oh, Mod Sun, But then I was on a Mod Sud kick for like a year and a half and like listened to all of his old stuff. And he started out rapping and he would rap about like super positive stuff. And then he moved on to like more pop punk. And then like his last stuff he kind of put out was a little more like pop, but like folky. So it's interesting even seeing like different, or like, again, MGK go from rapping, then we're going to pop punk. And then his last album, like Lost Americana, is more like, it's a little mix of everything.
Yeah.
But like still it's like completely different from, you know, Till I Die or
his earlier stuff for sure, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I really, you know, also think that, you know, when we're listening to these things and we're having these feelings, you know, there's a certain comfort level that we may have with our emotions and like who we want to share them with, who we want to talk to them with. And, you know, when you don't feel like you have that, or you don't want to really express yourself in that way, music is really served as this, like, it sounds kind of sad, but like this isolated, enclosed way to have those feelings. Like I wasn't journaling at that time, you know. I have so much better ways to cope with my emotions now, other than bottling them up and like locking myself in my room and listening to music. But I just think there's a component of, you know, relationships and the people in our lives, and whether it's, you know, through the language of music or just through the language of like venting and, you know, getting it out there. I just find it so important, especially now, to make those connections with the people that you trust, to have those things that you can talk about or like share those experiences, you know?
No, I agree. And I think too, like even social media, like having these different platforms where you can go, not saying you got to go vent your whole life, but there's different groups. Like if you had something specific that, you know, even if it was like a Tyler the Creator page or whatever, and then people just go in and talk about like, oh, you dropped this new song or this new album, and then seeing everyone's different perspectives, but then at the same time still having that sense of community.
Yeah.
Too, you know, because that's what people want. They want a sense of community or like a sense of purpose, you know, or just connection. And that's like your main thing, talking about like dual input, like just human connection and how we can make music, you know, feel connecting as well, but even just with each other.
Yeah. You know, I just like want to try and create this third space, and I haven't figured out how to do that away from the internet yet, but you know, I do like enjoy the comments for that reason. You know, when I post something that, you know, is really engaging, that people want to like engage with, then there is this discourse, and like I enjoy asking questions. Maybe I'm a little too like engaging socially, especially on social media, but I enjoy when, you know, someone's like, oh, this they have this comment, and then I like ask a little further on that, you know, just like, what do you what are your thoughts on that, or how do you feel about that? And I know like the internet doesn't have the capacity to have these big conversations sometimes, but I think as someone who grew up where you know, some of the social interactions you have would be like partially online, AOL, Facebook when it was super social. I do kind of like hope that the internet becomes that, and it doesn't stray into this like digital New York Times, or not New York Times. What's the plaza called in New York where there's like digital billboards everywhere?
Times Square.
Times Square. Yeah. Like I kind of fear that we're getting there with the internet, where it's just like, you know, I don't know. It's just that, and less of the social aspect of, you know, here's a community where I'm interested in this thing, you are interested in this thing. Let's talk about it and let's like grow and connect. You have perspectives that I don't. Yeah. And it's cool to learn from them.
Or just even sharing those perspectives and knowing that somebody's not, it's not an attack on you. Like if you and I view a song differently, like it's not like you're wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of stuff now on social media, I feel like it is. It's like people can't just like have a conversation. Like it's like almost like a head to head.
Yeah. How do you feel about the like maybe the discourse around that, around art? Because, you know, when it comes to music, I feel like you have a lot of people, including myself, you know, you have the music you like, you feel strongly about like what is good to you and what isn't good to you. And so when someone like feels differently, maybe there's like this emotional urge to be like, you're wrong, but there is no wrong. But how do you feel about like having discourse over things that are subjective?
I mean, because it's almost like being like, I would like welcome it because it's well, then I'd still hear your perspective because like you said, because and I don't even mean to sound ignorant, but like there could be a painting behind you and it's like a straight line with like one little loop and like some other things over here, and someone's like, that's worth 10 grand easy, and I'm like, how are we, like, how do you measure art? And I think a lot of that too is either relative or perspective, because who am I to, you know, I'm not some art critic. I'm like, but I could look at something and I'm like, think like, wow, it's great, and you could look at it and be like, that's a couple of swiggles. I don't know, you know, I don't understand how this is in a museum, right? And so I think just, I don't know, no one likes to be wrong or seen as wrong, but when it comes to what you like in music or art, like art is supposed to be what you like, or like to me it's going to be different than you, but it's like if I'm expressing in whatever way that is, you know, who's to tell me that I'm technically wrong?
Yeah, I mean,
you know, I guess that's where I'm like, how can I tell you that your opinion of, you know, whoever's album is wrong? Like, you like that,
right?
I don't know.
Yeah, and honestly, that's why I kind of struggled with critics, you know, of art, because I just have a hard time with someone saying, like, maybe if you're going to say it this way, someone saying that this is a bad piece of art and it's all because of all the reasons that I think it's a bad piece of art. Right. You know, and I struggle with, like, I guess maybe I wish people were a little more curious still, because if I saw a review like that, I'd be like, okay, I want to visit that. And how do I visit that piece of art without what this person said influencing how I receive it, so that I can have my own thoughts on things?
Exactly.
You know?
Like, it should be more like thought provoking.
It should.
To be like, okay, if I read, you know, I just keep using MGK's album, but like, you know, if that didn't get a great review because it's completely different from what he did, or they didn't like whatever route he took, like, okay, but it's like, if that's the style of music that I like, or I like that he transitioned into that, or I think that he sounds good in that genre, then like, that's my opinion. Yeah, and you know, that's what you connect with, and that's what you love. I mean, I think the perfect example of this is Rotten Tomatoes, and how they have like the critics reviews, and they'll be like, Shrek 1, this is a 3%, this movie sucks, right? And then like there's the fan review or whatever, and it's like 99%, we all love Shrek, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't tell my dad that Shrek 1 is not a masterpiece. That is like the only movie I've ever seen my dad like laugh throughout the whole thing, you know. And there's like acclaimed comedies out there, like my dad would put Shrek 1 at the top. So like, it connects with people differently, and like that's why it all exists, you know. Yeah And I think that's what's cool, because then people that want to share their art, or even you, like, not even like educate, but share your perspective and welcome people to have a conversation, like, that is what it should all be about. Yeah, I agree. And I think maybe we're getting there with, at least I see with social media, there's all of these niche creators and like pockets of the internet, which I think is cool, because people that are interested in like this subgenre of some art, of some music, or like, I only love like these kind of movies that are like super niche, like there's a way in a small community that's talking about it and hopefully like expressing how they feel about it, and you can be included in that. You know, it's not just this overarching like 3 people or like a few communities that are talking about a few movies and people feel left out. I do feel like now, like, a lot of different art is being highlighted for people that enjoy it differently. For sure. And I think that's what, and I said this too, but that's what I like about yours and your page, is because it's so eclectic. Like, I'm like, I don't know what he's going to show next. Because like, you'll do like the weekly rotations, right? So, or even like you just did your album recaps. And then, so like part 1, I was like, okay, I'm like, I wonder if, like, I was already guessing before I listened. I was like, is this going to be a theme of, okay, it's going to be like similar albums? And I'm like, no, there was a folky one, there was hip hop, there was everything. But that's what I like, because you're not just like in one group or like one genre. Yeah. And I think I'm a little intentional about that, where I realize that, you know, I don't want to only like listen to one certain genre and then close myself off to other music that's really good. You know,
I think the one thing with music that like I've really invited is having friction with music or with art or with honestly anything that like you consume and have a thought of like, do I like this or do I not like this?
Yeah.
And if I don't like it, if I have this friction, especially in music, because, we have so much music, you can play a song, the first 10 seconds, maybe you absolutely hate it, or maybe you just kind of hate it.
Yeah.
And I like when I have those feelings, I just kind of think like I want to know the why to my own questions. Like why is this uncomfortable? Why do I not like it? And sometimes I think about it over and over, and it's this friction that's like healthy because, I am thinking about it later on and I'm just like kind of teasing out how I feel about something.
For sure.
And sometimes that makes me want to revisit it. And it's like, oh wait, like I actually really love this thing. I am infamously, like, I'm going to say this on camera, on your
record.
On record here. I am infamously that guy who listened to Blonde by Frank Ocean for the first time and did not like it at all. And I listened, so this was when I was in college and we were holding music festivals that me and my friends put together at Augustana College.
Okay.
And in partnership with those, we would put on like a fall show, like all the students that get back on campus, the freshmen that get on campus, and then we would have a show to welcome week or whatever, like kick off the year. And a little selfishly, we had gone to Lollapalooza the year before. I wanted to see one of my favorite indie bands, Hippocampus, and I couldn't, so we booked them for the show.
Nice.
Well, I got everyone on board, so it wasn't like totally. This is like a dictator.
This is what we're doing, and I don't care.
Yeah. I was like, guys, like I really feel strongly about this band. They're really cool, and everyone else thought so too. And I was hanging out with him as we are getting ready. Like I'm just kind of getting them everything that they need before they play. And this was the same day that Blonde released. Okay. So we listened to like half the album together, and they had their thoughts, and I think they really loved it. And I was just like, man, I don't know, man. But I was so stuck on like his previous album, Channel Orange. I was like, this isn't Channel Orange. This is kind of not good. But I had this like friction of just honestly, and it came down to I was only not open to it because it wasn't Channel Orange. Right. Which is like a little too simple. Like I needed to like come into it with a different lens. And once I did that, I was like, I completely understand, Yeah. And so I just think we need a little more of that, like getting down to like why we feel a certain way and, kind of create like the questions within ourselves. Yeah.
And like you said too, it's like, okay, if this artist releases this and then they release, this is what I'm expecting, like you said, and I love Channel Orange. I love Channel Orange over Blonde. But
okay. Hey, honestly, I think that's cool.
That's my opinion. Yeah. And both are great. Yeah. But Channel Orange, and again, I think that also goes back to that was really heavy my senior year of high school going into college. So like that takes me back to a different time too. And I'm like, I can remember driving down the street, listening to this, and it takes you back.
It does.
So I get that though. Like but I think we also get comfortable with wanting, because I like Channel Orange, we can make a Channel Orange 2. Or is Blonde going to be a Channel Orange 2? And it's something that I will, still connect with. Because then I think we also have that, I don't want to say fear, but that fear of like, okay, but if it's new and I don't like it, like, am I now going to not like Frank Ocean? Am I only going to like Frank Ocean from 2011?
For this one album?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
And I think, honestly, as we get older, I'm 31.
Same.
And I was talking to someone yesterday just about like how around like the end of your 20s, like early 30s, I think, you kind of get stuck in the things that you like and only wanting to do those things and not wanting to do, things another way.
100%.
And I think, like I'm curious, like, how do you like try to combat that if you do, so that you're not just the person that only goes to the same stores, like does the same things, like you're open to still trying new things. I'm a total creature of habit and routine. And I think even like coming back into like my late 20s, like coming back like heavier into pop punk, because then I'm like, okay, is this just, I'm trying to relate to like teenage me, or like this is what made me happy at this time. I'm like, obviously I still love it, but like, is it almost like I don't know, because I've done a lot of
becoming more self-aware in the last like 2 to 3 years. And I think a lot of what happened when I was really in the pop punk scene, I guess I could say.
Yeah.
I think that like, you know, once 30 hit was more like, okay, I can relate to more of what happened to teenage Ariana at that point, if that almost makes sense.
Yeah, like elaborate on that a little bit more.
Like self-awareness to me is like a double-edged sword.
Okay.
It's like, I think it's great. And I think there's people out there in the world that need to be way more self-aware. I think we can all agree on that. But, you know, I think it's a double-edged sword because then it makes me feel more and sitting in my feelings, which we all need to do. We can't avoid our feelings. We all got to do it. But I think realizing even other points in my life, not even like teenage me, but just like, oh, I didn't deal with this, or I sat with this in this way. And that's maybe why that outcome was the way that it was.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of reflection.
Yeah. And it's hard.
It is.
It's very hard. And I continue, like you were talking about journaling too. Like I journal, or what I do now is I have 2025, I started it. I was like, all right, I'm going to reflect on my day. And every day is going to be, I have to, before I go to bed, I'm going to write down good things that happened today. So then it also forces me to go over my whole day. Because even if I had a long day and I've been up for 20 hours or whatever, I'm like, I have to do this. So it could be that I'm still breathing.
Yeah.
I woke up, like today was shitty. But reflecting and being able to even write it, like it's not even like I'm trying to write poetry or make it artistic. It's like I'm just writing for me or to get out or to vent. But a lot of that reflection, I've probably gone to 2 journals now, and I've held on to both of them. And I went back recently and looked through one of them, and I was like, man, I was like, that is a completely different person 2 years ago.
Wow.
I shouldn't say completely different, but I should say in who was handling their emotions the way that they were.
How do you, this is just strictly advice for anyone that I guess is watching this and wants this, like, has the same question, but it's definitely a question that I have.
Yeah.
How do you, or how did you come to journaling frequently? Because I will, you know, I usually do it at night too, but then let's say something comes up or whatever. Yeah. And then I realize I'm 4 days away from the last time I journaled.
Yeah. I think because like the good things I'll do is a bullet point. Okay. So like today I'll be like, I got up and got breakfast and coffee from a place that I like, you know, we're doing the podcast today, whatever's going to happen to me before I go to bed tonight. But I just do it as bullet points. But what I also noticed is that when I would actually like write, it was always when something was going wrong. Okay. It was always when it was something negative or I had a shitty day or I was mad about something. And I'm like, all of these are so heavy. And I'm like, I'm not writing anything down that's either productive or positive. And I'm like, that to me, that said a lot to me at that time. I was like, because not everything that's happening to me is negative. Yeah. I'm like, that felt like the good outlet to like write it down, and I needed to do that. But I was like, I need to be better about writing down the positive things that are happening. So that's why I started doing it. And the bullet points are just easier. Yeah. Like there's some stuff that like I'll I'll elaborate on more, but the bullet points are just quick and easy. Yeah. Just to jot down. Just get them down and then like they exist versus like having to structure how you're going to say it. Correct. Yep. Or if it's just like whatever's in my brain and I'm just, scribbling it out. But yeah, I think when I went back and read that and I was like, wow, I'm like, it's just it was a lot of anger and it was a lot of like sadness, which it just was what it was at that time. But I think I was like, when I come back and reflect, I was like, I also want to look at the positive things. Yeah, I did that a little bit with like 2025, some of the journal entries that I had. I couldn't help but like cringe, just like, why am I like this? Why do I do this? Yeah, but that's the thing, because it's for you. Yeah. Like, it's not like I'm going to be like, oh, let me go publish this, or like, there was some stuff like that I would share with Tara, with my girlfriend, but like, other than that, I'm like, that's for me. And trying to even navigate, like, even being like, okay, instead of letting me, continue this argument or whatever, like I would remove myself and be like, we can continue this conversation, but I need a minute. And I'd just go write it down. But also taking that time to like cool off. Yeah. Because I knew, like, I also know that about myself. I'm like, if I continue maybe having this conversation at an elevated rate where I'm up here and someone else is down here, I'm like, and I'm already up here, it's going to take me quite some time to get down to where I should be.
Yeah, to like have a productive conversation. Yeah.
And then knowing that I can't have a productive conversation right now is like the majority of the battle, because I'm like, I already know if I continue while I'm up here, it's gonna make it worse.
Is there any other like self-help things that you're doing for 2026?
Continue to journal and doing like the daily good things. So again, like I said, just bullet points. And I like to write things down. I feel like to me, that's more connection. Or I feel
rather
like
than like
sticks with me
typing
more.
it? Okay.
Instead of, because people are like, oh, why don't you just put it in your notes? And I'm like, I could. I'm like, but I just like, it feels more intentional to sit down and like have pen and paper and just like write.
Yeah.
Like even like I have like my little like outline here. I wrote it out before I even put it in this.
Oh, really? And then it was just like, just so that I have it with me, I'm going to type it.
For sure. But like writing it out, like it forced myself to be like, okay, I'm thinking about this. Like, sure, typing it is faster, but I don't know. Putting pen to paper to me, like just more of a connection. That I do a lot of grounding. It sounds real granola, but like I'll go in the backyard, whether not even not now barefoot, but like when it's nicer outside, I'll walk in the grass, I'll sit meditating more.
Okay.
Yeah. Little John's meditation album. No joke.
Wait, Lil Jon has a meditation album?
He does. He sure does.
I need to check that out.
It's actually pretty great because it's like, it still sounds like him, but it's just so calm.
Is it like calm music in the back, but it's Lil Jon walking you through meditation?
Yeah. So like there's different ones. There's like coping with grief, like imagine yourself in nature, for anxiety, deep breathing, sleep. I think there's 10 tracks. Yeah.
How could you not want to party to that stuff anyway? It's Lil Jon.
I know. And it's actually good because when it was a girl I actually had, Lexi, I had her on the podcast last season, and she's the one that told me about it. And I was like, no shit. And she's like, yeah. And then I found out he's got an affirmation one too. Like it's just 10 tracks of like,
you're smart.
Welcoming happiness, like welcoming abundance, like stuff like that. Yeah. And it's good. It's good. Okay. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm about to give that to myself. A Lil Jon affirmation album that I listen to every morning.
Seriously, and they're like 10 minutes long each.
Okay.
Like, so if there was one where you're like, hey, I'm feeling, or like if I need to ground myself, like the nature one's cool because it's like, picture yourself, sitting amongst the trees in the forest, and he's talking like that, but it's still
it's Lil Jon at the end of the day. I just imagine him,
but it's not distracting.
I just imagine him in a studio wearing shades, and it's Lil Jon, just like,
And he just ends them all with, yeah. No, he doesn't, but yeah.
To the windows.
Yeah. All right, look out this window. Now look to the wall. Yeah.
I love that. I need to find that.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's on, I use Spotify, but it's on Spotify, and those two are definitely saved albums.
Okay.
In the back pocket. But trying to actually it's hard for me to be still. So whether that's in my brain or even my body.
Yeah.
So for me, trying to be more intentional with actually like sitting with myself. So like the meditating helps. So just trying to be like, all right, I have these 10 minutes, whether it's, I'll put it on like while I'm in the shower or whatever, but something that's going to help me just be more still.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to do something similar to that because I think I've realized that the world just moves so quickly and social media is part of the world. And I say that because, when I have time, I just naturally find myself going to scroll.
Yeah.
And I think what that has done has taken away the time for me again to like actually consider what I think about things and like how I think about things, I don't know. I get even just kind of like watching a movie and just sitting down and just thinking like, what do you think about these things? Or like going to a museum or something, even just like going on a walk. Like, what do you think about like even your day, the day before? Like we're processing and getting information all the time.
Yeah.
Constantly.
It's an overload.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
So for me, it just has felt like I haven't created enough time because we're consuming so much, because there's so much information, not enough time to like actually assess like what I think about that information.
Yeah.
It just kind of comes in and goes, you know? Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that plays into it too, where I'm like, okay, if the things around me are moving, I'm like, I can at least control me.
Great point.
And at least like try to be still or as much as I can. Trust me, it's hard.
It's
like my brain goes a million miles a minute constantly.
Yeah.
But that's been my big thing. Well, even in 2025, but even more so this year, is to try to be more intentional with that.
Do you find a certain environment where you like to meditate and like think about things more?
I think honestly, like in the shower, because I'm like, all right, I'm by myself. I'm like, so that's one. I'm like, I'm by myself and I'll have time to actually like, no one's bothering me. No one's needs me for anything. So I think that's a time, and I'm like, not that I'm stuck in a place, but I'm stuck in a place. I'm in a place. I can't, not that I can't get out, but I'm like,
but you're kind of like, I think about when you shower, like that's a very intentional practice because you're like, I'm going to shower for whatever reason you shower, like some people like have already showered and they'll like get back in the shower to think or whatever.
For sure. Cause I'm like, it's like shower to start my day and then I'll always shower after work. So it's usually the one after work where I'm like, okay, now I'm winding down my day. And like, also I'm like, all right, let me reflect on the good things that happened too. Yeah. So that, or when it's nice out, I'll still do the same. I'll go like in our backyard. We've got like a good sized backyard. So I'll either sit under one of the pine trees, or I'll do the grounding and I'll walk, like almost like do laps.
And think as you're walking. That's awesome. Yeah.
Cause even when I'm like, okay, I physically can't be still right now, I can still move my body, but then also sometimes moving helps. Because then sometimes if I feel like I'm being too still, then I'm like, oh. Yeah. If that almost makes sense. But yeah.
It does. I love going on walks. So that makes a lot of sense.
Me too.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, I was going to say for you, is that going to be something that you're going to try to do in 2026?
Walks or
just be trying to be more intentional, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely want to be more intentional, especially as someone who is creating media online and in different aspects, because I've been doing this for about 6 months. And the one thing that I found myself doing the most is, maybe you post something, or I've told myself this lie all the time where I'm like, I'm going to get on Instagram to like study like what trend or like what people are talking about, not so much trends, but like, how I could get ideas for like, formatting my next video or whatever, like how it's going to look when I edit it. And that's a lie. You're just scrolling.
You're scrolling.
Just scrolling. Like you forgot the agenda, and so that has really made me want to be intentional, showing up also in just my personal life. Because like maybe most, I have a day job, I create, and then also I just have like a life. Like I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a friend. So showing up for those things. And when I am like doing something with empty intentions, with no intention, then you just waste so much time,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing. Like, I think it all is still going to circle back to social media, or even like you said, like the world is moving so much. I feel like it moves so much faster. Yeah. Now we're like, we have so much access to everything just in the palm of our hand. Yeah. And trying to be able to take, I shouldn't say I wish. It's my goal to do, but, there's a girl I know, Lissa, she does where unless it's like pressing, like text messages, whatever, social media, unless it's like brand related, she's like, I'll get back to you when I get back to you kind of thing. But actually taking like phone breaks. Yeah. Or just, I don't know if it's just leaving it on do not disturb all the time or whatever, but trying to disconnect more almost.
Yeah. And I just honestly like need to start this habit of, not being on my phone for unintentional reasons. Yep. So I just need to like actually put my phone in like a physical space that's not with me, because sometimes I'll like have it here working and then I'm just like also like I think I've perpetually had my phone on do not disturb, so I expect to see notifications when I go and like look for them. Like I don't get a ring or anything. For sure. So that's just like taught me to always flip my phone over to look, which is just unhealthy, I
saw, and maybe it's because my phone's listening, but it's called Brick.
Yes,
and
I've seen that.
Yeah, then you can like lock yourself out of all of your social media apps for X amount of time or whatever. But I'm like, but can't I just be like, never mind, or like unblock my? I haven't looked too much into it, but maybe I'll have to get one of those, because that would be helpful. Unlike you said, unless I intentionally, because then I also wear like my Apple Watch, so I'm like, well, even on do not disturb or certain things, like, am I still going to get notifications through my watch.
Yeah.
And certain things like that. So I'm like, am I ever actually disconnected?
Right. And I think that can be such a problem. Like the more I've realized this, I'm a big Reddit guy. Like I have like a newsletter where I get news every morning and just kind of read up on that. And I'm on X for like certain news. Like I'm a big sports guy, and I realize like all of my favorite reporters like write breaking news on X. So that's like really the only reason I've kept it. But there's just so much information, and I didn't even realize this until recently that it is like it is also addicting to just information gather, and I just told myself like I'm staying informed and I'm staying up to date, but like there is a ceiling on that too. You don't need to know everything, or at least I don't need to know everything all the time.
Right.
And I think the more that like I have done that, the less that I've thought about what do I think about this thing I just learned, or like what's going on. I don't even have my own opinion on it. You know what I mean?
Or it's just doing like, everyone's like, oh, do your research. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. But then a lot of our researching is going to come from being on our phone. Like it's, it's not picking up the newspaper or getting it, at the end of the driveway, and bringing it in. But with even back to what you were talking about with content, or like even being intentional, like trying to see, okay, like what's the new flow for like different reels or like music reviews and stuff. Do you ever, I guess fear's the word, because I can use it for me. Like, but like when you post something and you're the fear of like, all right, is this, not saying it's going to go viral, but is this even something that's going to resonate, or that you're like, I resonate with this because I made it, but then hoping that it resonates with somebody else. Like, do you ever have that fear of like actually hitting post and being like, all right, I'm putting this out into the world?
I have had that fear so many times, and I still have that fear, because I wouldn't call myself a perfectionist, but I think sometimes there is like a way that I like to feel, I've captured what I've wanted to say perfectly. The caption is also, done perfectly. Those things don't exist, but I'm also reviewing those things like right before I post. So I think there is this fear of, did I get what I wanted to say out there in a way where like people will receive it and connect with it. I do have that fear because, as someone who creates yourself, sometimes creating those videos can take a long time.
It can,
you know, so you do want like people to at least like resonate with it, or sometimes you want some recognition. But I think what I've started to realize more and more is, you mentioned kind of what you can control, and what I can control is creating those stories, those reels, those, like written pieces, whatever, because I love it. Yeah. And, because that is like what I feel is a passion project for myself. And I just want to go into 2026 hoping that other people kind of connect with it, or like say, man, I've been thinking that too, like, or that's a really great point, and like I provide some value to people. Like when I think of what I'm doing online, it really feels like what MTV did for me. Like it was this music discovery platform where there was sometimes discourse on music, but I want to provide some of that to people. And I think when I think about how much I love doing that and like getting in the weeds of music, it kind of dissolves a little bit of the fear. Like you're doing this because you love it, and it's an added bonus if people love it too. And, I follow Gary Vee online, and I love this post that he has where he's kind of like, he has these photos of like, this is what it looks like if 100 people like your photo or your video, and it's like a room of 100 people, and it's a lot of people, but then when you see like, 100 views on Instagram or whatever, you're like, this video sucks. No one liked it, so just trying to rewire that fear into, I get to do this. Like we live in a time where all these things are accessible, that you can do this, and I want to continue doing it because I love it. And hopefully that consistency turns into, understanding how to format things that capture people.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think, like you said, like just even with creating, and I'm like, video editing and stuff like that, or just even being on camera for me is still very new.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, but then I have to delegate that out to somebody else, right? Because I'm like, I can try to do all the things that I want to do. I'm like, but I also know where I can draw the line and be like, I need to delegate this to somebody else. But I think, like you said, or there was another post with Gary Vee, and I think it was the same thing when it came to content. He's just like, everybody sucks. He's like, everybody sucks at it. He's like, no, he's like, sure, you're going to have people that are better at it or master it or that's their job and whatever. He's like, but being consistent and putting yourself out there it literally is the hardest part. Like how I was talking about, like just showing up. I'm like, all right, I showed up. Like, do I want to put a piece of something that's not somewhat put together? I didn't put any thought into. No. But trying to at least be like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. Like it or not, but here it is. It's out on the internet.
Yeah. And I mean, there's been so many videos that and I honestly haven't put out that many videos. So I kind of tell myself that too. Like, I don't know, like maybe when I hit like the 100 video mark, like I'll assess, but, there's still just so much room for growth for us. And when I put out a video and like to my definition, it just doesn't do well, also, I guess, I know I'm like kind of going all over the place, but this made me think of this. I have put out videos where, like I put out a video talking about how I felt about one of Diana Ross's records. And like I went into this like insight and I think it did okay. Like it did well for like how like my videos do.
Yeah.
But I also did Lollapalooza and did like media coverage, just like on different artists and like what was going on in Lollapalooza. And I interviewed some people on the street, and I interviewed this older gentleman, and we just talked about how like some older or previous Lollapaloozas that he'd gone to. And that video is the most viewed video I have. And it's a 30-second clip of me like asking him about Lollapalooza. And when I did that interview with him, I was like, this is going to be B-roll, because I was actually like a little nervous. I'd never done like man on the street stuff before. Yeah. And he was like very sharp with his answers. Like the first question I asked him was, have you been to Lollapalooza before? And I think before I even said the word before, he was like, nope. And I was like, okay, all right. And then I asked like some other questions, and he just had like really great things to say. And I think people really resonated with that, versus like, I don't know, you just never know what people are going to resonate with.
For sure.
I just think, that is like how I'm trying to approach, making all of different types of videos of, a lot of people are trying to get back into like analog activities, I think they're called. So getting into writing, just kind of different ways that we can connect with people.
Yeah. I know. It's just a wild time that we live in.
It is. And I like that you brought up the fact that we get our news from our phones and like not newspapers anymore, because I growing up loved getting the Chicago Tribune, and like I don't really watch like highlight videos of sports, but I do pay for a subscription for The Athletic, and I like read, that way. And, I had the thought the other day, if I enjoy reading these things that I'm really interested in, then like maybe like other people are connecting in ways where they enjoy reading, and like you just never know where your voice is going to resonate, like I'm sure like people probably reached out to you and said like, I love that you're doing this, or like, thank you for providing this thing. And, there's proof of like one person that like the thing that you love and that you're getting out there is connecting with someone.
For sure. So. One that sticks out with me is when I held my first like 5K. Like I hosted a 5K this year in September for Suicide Prevention Month, and we donated over $4,000 to Hope for the Day. They're out of Chicago. But JV actually went around and kind of asked like, hey, all right, what's going to make you better than yesterday, or what are you going to do that's going to make you better than yesterday? And one guy was running through, and he was just like, I haven't smiled all week, and this made me smile.
Wow.
And I was like, sir, but just even little stuff like that, like knowing that, I took months to repair this thing, and then like I have my own critiques about it, about how it went and everything. And I'm like, it could have been, so much better in this, this aspect and this aspect. And I'm like, well, this dude, this was one of the highlights of this dude's week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I can, take wins from that. But like you said, it's like knowing that you can not change perspective, like how we were talking about that earlier, how things are relative or art being relative or subjective, like that you can maybe put that little seed in someone's brain to think a little differently or a little outside the box.
Yeah. And I love that story, behind that event. Also shout out JV.
Shout out JV. Thanks, JV.
Thanks, dude. Honestly, I am a true believer that you just don't know what people are going through because, when you like walk by people in passing and you like ask how they're doing, like, no, everyone gives the same like scripted answer. I'm good. Yeah. Good. How are you? Yeah. Then you say good. And then you go. Yeah. So you just don't know what people are going through.
Yeah. There was a post I actually saw it recently, and it was just cars like driving down a highway. And it had different captions on top of it. So it's like, had a great first day at work. Just had to put their dog down. Just had to go say bye to a best friend or, just got engaged. But like how different people, even as we're traveling in cars, are going to different destinations. Yeah. And they're having the greatest day of their life. And some people are having the worst day of their life. And just like you said, just never knowing what everyone's actually going through.
Yeah, and honestly, like I know I keep saying like I love that you said this thing, but you're just like making me think so much more about like context with things, and I always think about like sometimes or maybe many times you'll see like someone that's driving kind of insane, and you're like, this dude is insert here, right, whatever you think. Right. But like that person might be on the way to like, their baby being delivered, right, or like some tragedy that happened. Like you just don't have that context all the time. And sometimes like we don't have the luxury of finding out what that context is. So I don't know. It's just like a message of like, let's just treat each other,
Yeah. And it's hard because like we all get wrapped up in our own stuff too. Because you're like, all right, well, why is this person driving like an asshole? Right. And like you said, like who knows? Maybe their family member just got in a car accident. They got to, rush up to the hospital or whatever. But yeah, but I think it also goes back to like being like sitting in it for a second instead of being as reactive. And like that's something I've had to work on too. Same. Just being more reactive to stuff, yeah, or less reactive, I should say.
Yeah, same. It's like I sometimes don't have that, like you said. One thing that I've been doing for the last couple of weeks has been writing out a goal that I've wanted to achieve every week. Okay, and it has just made goals a little more attainable for me, rather than saying like this is the thing I want to do throughout the year. I actually write a goal for the week, a goal, like goals for the month, a few. Yeah. And then I always have like my overarching, this is the end of the year goal. And like that end of the year goal is kind of what makes up the month and day one. Okay. And the other week, one of my weekly goals was to do things slower than everyone else. So, like I have this for my day job, I have this meeting that we have every day at like 8 a.m. And usually like I'm pretty go. Like I'm responding quickly. I'm leaving and entering the room quickly, but that week, I was doing that really like slowly, and the opportunities were presenting themselves. Like people were like asking me questions, maybe they needed something, and I was like being there for them, and also just kind of speaking slower, like responding slower. It made me a better listener. Okay. And yeah, I just think we do need to sometimes like slow down and take time to like ingest those things and like have that thought of, okay, maybe this guy is on his way to some big thing. We'll never know, but giving people grace. For sure. And giving ourselves grace. That's another thing. Yeah. See, I know we're just bringing all these other things up, but yeah, no. That's a big one. It is. Cause I'm very, like even how you said earlier, like being a perfectionist, and it's like, is anything ever perfect? No. Right. But in our version of ourselves being perfectionists, or like I hold myself to a very high standard in most regards of life. And for me, I think like my self-talk has always been like it's more negative, and as I've learned now, not the greatest, but like but I never really saw it as negative. Like I was like, oh, I guess I'm putting myself down, but like it fired me up more. Okay. So like more of like a tough love kind of thing. Like if there was something I was struggling with in the gym, like I would be like, I need you to scream at me. Kind of thing, like to get like pump me up, like get me going. Whereas like my girlfriend's like, not like you got to baby her,
and be like nice, but like hers would be a different. I couldn't yell at her.
Meet you in
like,
the middle.
Yeah, like she's like I don't need you to scream at me and tell me to move my ass, you know, or whatever. Like it would be something different. Where for me, that's the same way. I'm like, she's like, but that's how you talk to yourself, and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, really? And I'm like, for the most part, you know.
Did you grow up playing sports?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I also talk to myself in that way because I was motivated, like,
Correct.
you know.
Yeah, it was more of like a motivation or like even like a disciplinary thing or like knowing that I can achieve what I'm trying to do.
Right.
But, and she's like, I don't think, and then there was some other stuff that I would say to her. I'm like, well, this is what I say in my head. She's like, yeah, that's a little, she's like, that's a little self-deprecating. I'm like, is it?
It's like, it works.
You know, I'm like, yeah. And she's
yeah.
like, but does it work all the time? And I'm like, no. You know, if I was being honest and actually reflecting on it. But yeah, giving myself grace or like, because I didn't hit whatever deadline or like whatever video didn't come out exactly the way that I wanted it to or discussion or whatever. But knowing that just because it didn't turn out that way, it didn't mean it's not one or the other. It's not going to be completely great or completely garbage. Like there's still something in the middle. Yeah.
And you just really never know like how people will connect with, you know, the real experiences that you are having with, I guess, the ups and downs, you know. I mean, 2018, after I graduated college, was my self-proclaimed worst year of my life, probably. And that is where I really had to hone in with myself to just constantly tell myself that all of these things that did not work out going into this year were failures, and failures aren't a bad thing. You know, I learned so much from like my definition of I failed at this thing. And then I like kind of heard more people talking about failing forward. And I just really leaned into that. Like I'm failing forward. Like these failures are pushing me towards the thing that I want to do or the success eventually if I keep at it. And so I really find a lot of value in kind of actually doing something and failing because one, it means that we tried. Like we didn't, you know, shy away from doing it because we thought we would fail. Like we did it, and you know, now we have the experience. And then two, we can like speak on those failures. You know, we can, you know, provide the experience to other people or to even to ourselves. And like, this is the lesson learned from it. You know? Yeah,
and like you said, it's like a learning experience. Like you said, like no one wants to fail. Right. And that's my big thing too. And I'm like, oh, but if it doesn't go this way, then it's a failure. And it's like it's not a complete failure because it also taught you something. Like it's a lesson. It's a lesson within a lesson. Yeah. But yeah, I like that though. Like failing forward. I don't think I've heard that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still scared to fail, especially when you put in so much work into something and then like it doesn't turn out. You know, you have these expectations and then they're not met, and you're just like.
But do you feel like failure is also subjective?
I think failure is definitely subjective. You know, like I could do something that I think I failed at, and other people are like, this seemed, you knocked it out of the park. You know what I mean? And I think it goes back to what you said of like holding yourself to these like high expectations that weren't met, or like holding yourself to high regards. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to use that now. I like that. Failing forward. I do. Or at least even trying to reframe that. Like, you know, just even in my brain, like if there's something that doesn't go the way that I want it to go and like, okay, it's not a failure, or it's like, okay, if I didn't like this, then what can I take from this to improve it for next time?
Do you think failing, because like, I don't know if you also think it's subjective.
I do. Yeah.
So with, you know, that thought, do you think failing is partially because maybe we have high expectations? And like, how do you feel about expectations? Should we, you know, when you're posting something or when you're running a 5K and maybe you have like a goal of I want to run it in this time, and you create the expectations, like how do you handle like dealing with your own expectations?
I think I'm still navigating that because I do like even just certain expectations that I have. I'm like, all right, I want this at, you know, this point up here. And if it's up here and I hit here, like my brain's like, that's a failure because we didn't meet exactly where we thought it was going to be. And that's been something I've had to work on to literally reframe it to be like, okay, but just because it didn't turn out how I wanted it to. And you could take that in the brand and what I thought, how my day was going to look like, and something changed. Like knowing that that's okay and still trying to take positives out of it. Like this does, like this whole full circle thing of like just trying to have, and not like toxic, positivity,
right?
But like knowing that it's not the end of the world or everything just isn't going to fall apart. Because I think that's how I used to kind of view things. I'm like, okay, if it didn't hit exactly, I'm like, then what's the point? Then just like scratch the whole thing.
Yeah, don't even do that.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I'm like, that's not, like, something can always be salvaged, or like you said, it's just, failure is also a lesson in disguise.
Yeah. I mean, like, life doesn't happen without the failures. The success, making a definition of the success, just, I don't even know how I would do that in a healthy way without having an idea of what it looks like to fail. It's like, I don't know, the cheesy saying about, like, I don't even remember how it goes, but it's something like, you can't like enjoy like I'll say Chicago. You can't enjoy like a Chicago summer without experiencing a Chicago winter.
Okay.
You need both to like understand like where the happiness lies with each other, with those two things. And so I think failure is, I would say, maybe, I don't know if it's just as important as success, but it's very, I feel like it's very important.
Like it's necessary.
I think it's so necessary.
Yeah. And like you said, because it's like, then you would almost take for granted, like if you never had, I don't want to say we'll say setbacks. Like if you always had a Chicago summer and experience a cold ass Chicago winter, like you're not going to take, you're not going to take for granted the summer. Like you're going to appreciate it more.
Exactly. Like when Chicago summer hits, like if we are like going to do something for that day, like a beach day or something, we are like capitalizing on the whole day because it's like, this is a good day. Otherwise, like you said, it might be like, well, let's just stay inside. We have these days all the time. You know what I mean? Like you don't capitalize or like appreciate them.
Yeah. Or even now, like it's 30 degrees outside and I wish that I lived somewhere that was warmer.
Yeah.
But I know in a few months it'll be back to 80 degrees and things will be fine.
And then like everyone's out and it's lively and it's just different.
But then it's the same thing. Like everyone's like, oh, it's too hot. I can't wait for fall. And then it's fall and they're like, oh, I can't wait for the hot. Like it's the same cycle. It's the same cycle every year.
It is.
It's just all like, it's just all the same thing.
It's just like whatever you take from it. Like right now with the Chicago winters, I kind of take, the fact that, I'm not drinking right now. I can stay at home. I can get some stuff done. Whereas like in the summer, I don't really want to get as much done. Like maybe I will and I'll just kind of bite the bullet. Like I need to get this done. But I'm more inclined to go to the beach or like be outside and like be social because everything is just pleasant.
Are you doing dry January?
I am.
There you go.
Yeah.
How's it going so far?
It's going well. I've been doing it for a while with a buddy from college, and we've been doing it for the last at least like 4 years.
Okay.
So usually, and we were talking about this before, but usually November and December are just packed with family events, birthdays, my own birthday, holidays, and like we're drinking a lot, we're socializing a lot. And so dry January, like as trendy as it is like a nice reset for me whenever, even like around New Year's, I kind of start like a little early just to like, one, kind of create discipline within myself. Like I don't need to, because I still go out and like I'm still social. We were out at a bar for the Bears game yesterday, which shout out the Bears.
I hate to say it, but I'm a Packer fan, so it's still it's still a little sensitive.
Thanks, guys.
It's all right. I know, but
as long as you're cool with the win yesterday. I mean, I don't know if
I would say I'm cool with it. I don't think that would be my exact term. No, but I think for different reasons.
Fair.
There were a lot of things that should have happened on our end that didn't happen, and it could have been a different outcome. But you also never know.
Yeah.
So,
and I think you're great, but I'm not going to apologize for those things.
No.
Like,
I mean, I don't. If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't be apologizing either.
Yeah.
So,
all right, good. Agree to disagree.
No,
Cheers on that. Cheers on that.
See, it's all relative. Yeah. It's all subjective.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to be like, you're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't have to turn this into a crazy, a CNN pod. Like, no. We're so cool. We're so cool.
No, and most of, like, my mom grew up in Wisconsin. Most of my mom's side, like, we would go up to Wisconsin all the time. So I was born into it.
Okay, I won't fault you for it.
Yeah, it wasn't like a decision. I mean, I wouldn't, like, decide now to be a Bears fan, but... No, JD's like,
it's your first episode of the pod. I might just throw in some bear downs here and there.
I'm glad we're towards the end. No, I'm just kidding.
Throw a little Bears logo on the bottom here by me, please.
Yep, you'll just put a nice little Packer here, and you can put a Bears on his.
Edit the cheese grater thing on my head.
Oh my god.
But we were at a bar yesterday, and like I was having some non-alcoholic beers. Like I've already figured out like which are some of my favorite, but I've always like wanted to change the, I guess, idea that in order to be out with all of my friends socializing, I had to have a drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanted to change my relationship with like being social and alcohol. So I've loved doing it for that reason. A lot of the times too, like dry January will turn into dry like couple first months of the year.
Yeah.
Because, you do a 4-week streak and you kind of want to break it. Like you feel good. Maybe you're going to the gym more. Maybe you're just doing things that like, being hungover took you away from doing. So I've wanted to just continue doing those things. And it's also turned into like January being one of 3 or 4 months. So I would pick 3 other months. Like it changes every year just depending on like, weddings and stuff or whatever I have going on. I will do like 3 other months in the year where the whole month is sober.
Okay.
Just to like give myself a reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't drink. And I drank when I was younger, but like not like I never really cared for it, never really liked it. And I'm like, as I got older, I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I'm like, like to go out and like I'll still go out and whatever, but I'm usually always just the designated DD, which I don't really care. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I think for me, like trying to like I've always wondered that like who's someone who's done it. I'm like, all right, cool, you did it a month, and you're like, but you said you usually do it like the first couple months.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, like why don't I just keep extending this into February or even if it's not totally dry, like being like, all right, if I only am going to go out on the weekends, like I'll have, a couple drinks or whatever.
Yeah. And honestly, I really have loved doing dry January because it's changed my relationship with alcohol. I've always been the guy who will like someone will be like, let's go out for one drink. And it's never one drink. It's like, it's like, let's have one chip. It's like, you're going to take the bag down.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So it's kind of like allowed me to, understand what it feels like to feel good, because like when I'm not drinking every weekend, I feel really good. And so I want to continue to show up for myself in that way, go to the gym, keep promises to myself, like do all of those things. And so it's also like when I am just kind of like out on a weekend where I am drinking, like it creates the threshold for me where I can say like, okay, I've had 2 or 3 drinks. This is like not a big celebratory night or anything. Like I don't need to continue to drink. I feel good. I don't want to feel worse. And I want to go home. Like I'm having that dialogue with myself. You know what I mean? Versus like any other night where I'm just like, there's no threshold. We're just having fun. I'm only thinking of the moment. So I've really enjoyed challenging my social self in that way.
I love that.
Yeah.
Cause I think too, like just even like New Year's, new us, right?
Yeah.
But trying to, but even have that like within yourself or like that knowledge to be like, this is something that I want to like challenge myself to do.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, when you or at least I'll just speak for myself. College was very central around like when you are out socially, like you're usually drinking. So those things were tied together. And yeah, I just really wanted to like challenge myself on that perception. Also, I think out of college, when I would like meet someone over drinks, that's typically like where you meet, you would say like, let's go meet over drinks or something.
Yeah.
There was this anxiety that I would have, like I, want to get loose or like I want to feel like myself so that I'm not like stiff having this conversation with someone. Yeah. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to grab a drink and do that. But I just really felt that I should push myself to be uncomfortable if I, had anxiety around that and like, walk into having the conversation, just having a water, like, or whatever, like not needing and leaning on alcohol to be the person I wanted to be socially.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. Or like you said, see all the self-awareness.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it takes time and I'm still working on it like everyone else.
It does. But that's the thing too. Like people talk about like, oh, like I can be healed from something. I'm like, I think it's always just, it's constant.
Yeah, I don't think like even with goals and like wanting to get better, I don't think there's ever this like, okay, I've arrived. Like I went to the gym all year. Now I'm healthy. I don't need to go to the gym this year. You know what I mean? It's like you said, it's just always wanting to be better, always like being open to like either educating yourself or doing the things that will just continue to push you to be the version of yourself you want to be.
Yeah. And it's just that consistency. Like, even if they're just small things, like even if it's just like slightly switching up your diet or not having dessert, like that'd be sweets are my big thing, you know, like maybe not having so much candy or, you know, whatever, but you're still making those small things, like knowing that this will better myself in the end.
Yeah. Or like, how can you do that in a disciplined way? Especially, I always think about the fact that we are adults. And if I wanted to leave here right now, like after we wrap up here, and one of my favorite like sweets to have are like those white macadamia nut cookies from Subway. If I wanted to go get 10 of those, no one is stopping me.
Free will.
You know what I mean?
Free will.
I can just go do that, and they're not gonna be like, I should cut you off at 5. Like they're gonna sell me all 10.
Or
you know
it's the
what I mean?
fact now they have like those foot long cookies. Have you seen that? I could never, I think, ever get myself to buy one, but I'm like, I could buy out all of these right now.
And no one's stopping me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like to have the discipline of like, if I'm going to enjoy, how can I still enjoy these things because I want to enjoy things in life?
Yeah.
In a controlled way, like that's discipline. And if I tell myself I'm going to have one cookie, like keeping that promise to myself, so I'm not like always pushing things and like doing things in an uncontrolled way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's big.
It is big. We've talked about a lot of things today.
We have.
We've gone like a full circle.
Yeah, I know. And I've like, I don't know, I've really appreciated you just kind of like being open to like talking about all of those things.
That's like that's the whole part too, or just even like mental health or like well-being, like being able to have like conversations or vulnerable but just even being willing to share.
Yeah.
Like, because again, it always goes back to connection too. Like if I don't share or even somewhat open up with you, like how are we going to even be able to like try to connect on something?
And I think that's big going into the year, like as we kind of are in settings where we're talking to like friends and people that we don't know, because I am a big proponent on relationships, and I just don't think that I would be where I am in life without relationships, and they mean so much to me. And even like fostering new relationships or like creating new relationships, that is like the one thing I want to be very mindful of, you know, so that I'm present for those people and, you know, just kind of giving back in those ways too.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. Well, to close it out, I've got a couple questions for you.
Let's hear them.
All right. Are you ready for the first one?
I am.
So this one, this might be the hardest question for you to answer. So if you can only pick one song, only one, that gets you out of like a negative headspace or like out of a slump, something like that, what is it?
Yikes, that is hard.
I told you. Because I was like, we were like, oh, I have a couple. I'm like, one.
Yeah.
You're like, you one.
One song to get me out of a negative headspace. I think it would probably be, this is like a really weird one. Maybe my answer changes because this is so hard. I'm stalling. You can tell I'm stalling.
It's okay.
It would probably be, shoot. What is the song by Stevie Wonder? Do I do? Maybe it's I Do. What?
See, and I'm thinking, I'm thinking John. Isn't it John Rule? Do I do? That's what I'm.
That's Stevie.
See, and I couldn't tell you the name of that song.
Oh, maybe Ja Rule sampled it, but I think
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think it's I Do by Stevie Wonder, and JV will hopefully help us out with editing if I got that wrong, or if I got it wrong, it's cool.
No, we gotta have like our and play it through.
Yeah, what you do? Like that song is just you know exactly.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, I think just probably 4-year-old me that heard that song didn't realize it was a Stevie Wonder sample. I'm so sorry, Stevie Wonder.
No, it's cool.
All right, cool. We'll go with that one. This one's a little deeper. So, what do you feel that your purpose is?
That's a great question. I feel that my purpose, that is really hard.
I know.
I haven't thought about this enough, I guess. I feel like my purpose is to serve. I'm very religious. So I feel like my purpose is to serve what God has me on earth for. And right now that is to, I don't know. I think it is to like foster the relationships that I have with people and lift them up, like almost be a vessel for the relationships that I have in my life that provide meaning and I provide meaning for. And I really do feel like I am like a servant in that way to the people that I love. And it feels really fulfilling in that moment. Maybe I'll have a better way of saying that in the future as I think about that.
No, I totally get it, because it is, because it's like you're still, you cherish those relationships, and that's what you hold close to, and you want to be able to give as much into them that you can to either strengthen it or keep it what it is, or like be able to give them like all of you, that you're like, I love this person and I care about them, and this is near and dear to me.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that goes back to like the relationship I have in like God and what I believe too. Because I think that opens me up to like my full potential and my full purpose, as I continue to figure that out. And that's that, like honing in on like raising relationships, allowing myself to be raised by my relationships too. Like it takes a village,
100%.
I think that's kind of been very purposeful for me in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great answer.
Yeah.
Last one.
So
if you had one piece of advice that you would give to listeners, whether it's like mental health, well-being, or just something that you think maybe on a daily basis that kind of helps yourself be better than you were yesterday, like what would that be?
I would say it would probably be I think that there's such a superpower in being curious. And I think even the things that we think we understand, like still remaining curious in those things. And I think in like a wellness way, if you're having a bad day, kind of like diving into like why you had a bad day. I think sometimes it's easy to just say like I had a bad day because work sucked, but like what about work sucked? And sometimes, journaling is the way to like dive into the curiosity on that. And then you can kind of hone in on like, what serves you and what doesn't serve you, and kind of think about those things and like understand them well. Like I said, I'm just really fixated right now on the fact that like the world is moving so fast, and it's sometimes hard to like think about the things that we are like that are coming to us all the time. And so I think slowing down and remaining curious about just what's happening in your life is so powerful, and it's really served me. So that would be my advice. No,
I love that, because staying curious, the more knowledge is power.
Yeah, and I think also like it's so easy to not be curious about yourself, because you're like, I know what I like, I understand these things, but I think just like auditing yourself and like being curious with like yourself every year, like, kind of how you write out all the things that, the good things that happen to you, and then you can go back and kind of like, understand, what you considered like was a good day or a good moment in a bad day. Like, I think it just really helps you like it gives you information to remain curious and to like continue to understand things.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So where can the listeners find you for all of their new music rotations and Marvin's crate flips and all the things?
Yeah, all the things. And there's so many things, but I'm primarily on Instagram under Marvin McCouri. I put out different series of videos. I would say like the main series that I have right now would be the interviews that I'm doing through Dual Inputs, weekly albums that I've really loved that I'm sharing with people, just like a quick snippet of them. Also, I'm bringing back the curated playlist that I've created called Marv's Crate Flip, and that is just a playlist of 20 random songs. There's no like, these are the songs for your morning, these are the songs for this. They're just 20 songs that are from different genres that I love and I'm sharing with people. And I'm like, the hope is that people kind of go through them, listen to what you like to listen to, add them to your thing. If you don't like them, move on to the next, but switching that up to give people like a way to discover music that they may not be discovering before. I would say those are the major things. I'm also on TikTok. The full interview series is on YouTube as well. And hopefully there will be some written reviews coming out this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Marvin. I appreciate you for being here.
Thank you, Ariana.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Dead Set on Progress podcast. As a token of my appreciation, listeners of the podcast can receive an exclusive discount. Use the code POD10, POD10 for 10% off your order. Thanks for listening and keep showing up.